For organizations that are just getting started, I think that taking the bottoms-up approach often leads to, might be failure, might be overspend, might be underspend. Some business continuity professionals oftentimes struggle with or are hesitant to engage management, and they oftentimes dive right into methodology, business impact analysis, risk assessment. They're doing that at a low level. But if they started by engaging with their executive management teams and asking for input on program scope and objectives, risk tolerance, and the like, there would probably be a much more efficient program overall. There's also probably going to be better alignment to expectations.
I think they treat, and it's a good word you're using, program, because they tend to treat programs as projects, that there is a finite start date, there's a finite end date, and they don't look at it as something that is ingrained into the overall fabric of the culture or the environment of their organization, that they look at it as, great, go do these things, be done with it, high-five each other and call it a day, when in fact what they need to actually understand and embrace is that you have a long-term commitment, that as long as you're doing business, as long as you're interacting with customers, as long as you're interacting with shareholders and have the potential of having blogs spooled up about you if you have an outage, this is a program, not a project. And I think that's the biggest challenge.
I think depending on the type of organization, a lot of them start off from the basis of whatever they perceived as the problem. And I guess it's not really the worst way to start, except that really colors every decision down the line. So if you start off thinking that business continuity is an information technology issue, you're going to place it within an information technology department, you're going to have an information technology focus, and frankly all the other aspects such as human resources and risk management tend to get the short end of the stick. So to some extent, sort of where you begin determines where you end up, and what that means is that most organizations have some pretty big gaps based upon sort of where they started from.
You know, Luke, I think as a process is developing, there's a tendency for an individual or an organization to try and jump on the latest challenge. Where are we headed to now? Well, now we need to talk about PS prep. Now there's a cyber issue. There's always something that's going to be coming, and I think if the individual and organization chooses the process properly and starts to build it, they can effectively manage against anything that's coming. So if you develop a process in our case, which is in compliance with the DRI 10 professional practices, in compliance with NFPA 1600 standard, as risks and other issues evolve, we're going to embrace them, make them part of our process, and keep moving ahead. If you say we're going to scrap plan A and go to plan B, that never works. You need to keep building on the success of what you have.
Oh gosh, I think the biggest mistake is really having the program positioned where it gets maximum visibility. Because if you don't have the program positioned to obtain, and not only obtain but keep and maintain that maximum visibility, and having the correct sponsor that's really and truly engaged and dedicated to the program, you really are going to lose that visibility across the entire organization and lose that commitment for the program.
Well, there unfortunately are a lot of mistakes that people make, and there are mistakes around having the right talent in place to run the program, and getting out in front of the right people and cultivating the right kind of champions. But I think the single biggest mistake I see over and over is that people turn business continuity management, which ought to be an operational risk interest, into a compliance program. Very few people do that on purpose. But when you look at how we treat those that we're trying to serve, you get a sense of how easily it gets viewed as compliance. You have to do these things. We measure people's activity as opposed to their results. We come up with dashboards that tell them that they're red. And the goal isn't to get any better, it's just to stop being red. And so we treat it very much like a compliance program, and then we wonder why people think that we're just about compliance. And they ignore us the way they try to ignore every other compliance person. I think that's the single biggest thing, that if we change tomorrow, our whole field would be different.